I was in a classical pop crossover band called Escala. We were an electric string quartet and we ended up on Britain's Got Talent in 2008. We ended up in the finals, which was just completely unexpected. And then we had this amazing career thanks to Mr. Simon Cowell. I think I achieved everything I wanted to achieve in music and it was amazing. So I'm now a certified naturopathic health coach. I decided health coaching because I began to find an interest in nutrition, and it was through my own fertility struggles that was born.
Hello and welcome to the Go Encourage podcast, where I talk to real people about real life, trying to gain some insights from their experiences building courage. Before we get started, I just want to encourage you to hit that subscribe button on YouTube. It really helps the channel grow and it helps me to bring more guests onto the podcast. You can also do the same on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Amazon with a like and a follow. And if you're looking for links to social media channels, you can find them at www.goencourage.com. You can also grab a copy of the Courage Journal, which is a 31-day prompted journal designed to help you build courage in your life. All right, with all that said, let's bring on my next guest and let's see where the conversation goes. Chantal, welcome to the Go Encourage podcast. Really pleased that you're joining me today. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Fantastic. We start the podcast off straight away with our tradition, and that is to ask you if you know what your name means, Chantal.
Ooh, now that's a question. So, it's French by origin, and I'm assuming it's something to do with song, as in chanter, but I don't actually know.
Okay, all right.
Go on, enlighten me.
If you don't get anything else out of this conversation, here's a bit of value for you. I'm going to tell you what your name means.
Okay.
All right, you ready? So, reading the definition over here is Chantal is a feminine name of French origin. You were correct. Primarily meaning stone or rocky place.
Ooh.
It's derived from the old, I can't even pronounce that word, cantel, I'm going to say. And it's often associated with strength, resilience, and classic charm.
Love that.
Okay. Would you
Classic
say that
charm,
kind of
nothing like it.
a little bit of a smile get you far in life, you know?
Well, that's good.
Then,
at least I know now.
At least you know. So strength, resilience, classic charm. And then it went on. So I'm just going to give you the other bit as well. The secondary meaning is linked to the word chanter, I don't know how to say it, which means to sing, which is linked to what you were saying. Do you sing much?
I don't. My eldest daughter does. She's the songbird in our family. My mum used to sing a little bit, but no, it was all about instruments growing up. So I started on the violin, piano, viola. That was my thing.
Yeah, you're musical, aren't you? That's right.
Yeah, well, it was my background and my training and my first career, if you like. So, yeah.
Well, we're going to unpack that a little bit, but just off the bat, let's just bring it right onto the table. So this is quite exciting for me. You were part of a music group, weren't you?
I was.
And what was the music group?
Many moons ago, I was in a classical pop crossover band called Escala. And it was with three very close friends. We were an electric string quartet and we ended up on Britain's Got Talent in 2008, which is why I say many moons ago. And we ended up in the finals, which was just completely unexpected. We didn't know how we would be received. And then we had this amazing career thanks to Mr. Simon Cowell.
Yeah, you got signed by Simon Cowell, didn't
Yeah,
you?
we did. Yeah, it was great. Great fun. Amazing experiences. Got to travel the world and work with amazing producers. And we collaborated with Slash, which was a highlight in the album that we did with Psycho. So yeah, it was great. Really fun.
Amazing. And I have some questions about that, but I'll save that for a second because I thought what would be really cool to do is just to start off with some fun facts.
Okay.
Just to get a little bit warmed up. Are you up for that?
Yeah.
All right, let's do it. So, Cats or dogs?
Cats.
Cats. You have a cat, don't you?
I've got two. I've got two
Oh,
Siberian cats, absolutely beautiful. And I've always had cats. I grew up with cats. I mean, I love animals. I'm a big animal lover. So, you know, bring me a dog and I'll love it just like a cat. But I think because I've always had cats, I've got this connection with them. So yeah, I know that will probably be an unpopular answer. So many people don't like cats.
So many people do. I used to have a cat. So I'm a fan. My sister has one as well. She still has her cat, whose name is Catty.
Original.
It was named by, I think, a 4-year-old at the time.
Love it.
Fair play.
Yeah.
But yeah, cats are crazy. Cats are crazy. I don't know what your two are like. Are they
mine are
strong personalities?
Mine are very like dogs in temperament because they're indoor cats. I've never had indoor cats until I got my two, Jazzy and Jasper. Right. And they're so docile, so they wouldn't survive outside. I mean, Jasper would probably just lie on the road and sunbathe and not move. So they're really different to normal cats. They're very dog-like. They're very attached to their owners. They're very cuddly. So yeah, that's sort of their temperament.
This is where the voice in my head goes, move on, Rix. These are supposed to be fun facts. I just get so curious about everything. All right, calm it down. Right. Left or right, if you had to choose?
Right. Just because it's easier, because I'm right-handed.
Same. Favorite season?
Oh, summer. But saying that, I do love the mountains and the snow and skiing. It's a difficult one, but I think I feel at my best in the sun.
Okay.
I feel at my healthiest in the sun. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I suppose if you pick the right country, you could have all of that in the summer, couldn't you?
Yes, you could. Absolutely. But minus the snow.
Minus the snow. Okay. If you were going to... Oh, here we go. Oh, this is a good one. I've never asked anyone this one before.
Oh, no.
If you were going to pick your final 3-course meal, what would it be?
Oh, gosh. That's really difficult because I love food.
I know.
Oh, no. Do you know my favourite meal of all time is Christmas dinner or Christmas lunch?
Yeah.
It would be my last meal. My mum's Christmas lunch. I think to starter, it's got to be a classic 80s prawn cocktail. If that's on the menu, I'll always have it. And then I would probably finish with like a yummy chocolate fondant. So like a cake with a liquid center. Delicious.
Good choice.
That's a great dinner. I'd be very full.
That is a great dinner. Yeah, I wouldn't be able to do much
afterwards. No, it wouldn't be able to move for about 3 days.
Exactly. I'll have to go and see my favourite health coach to get some tips on movement afterwards.
It's all right, we'll get some complex carbs in there.
Exactly. Well, seeing as you have a musical background, I was going to ask you what your favourite song is, but I feel like that's an impossible question. What's a song that you like? What's a song? Oh,
goodness me. Do you know, at the moment, I'm really enjoying Ray. I think she is amazing, so talented, uses live band, live strings, which is right up my street. She can sing, she can rap. She's just cool. Just love her.
All right.
So yeah, at the moment, I'm listening to her a lot. But I mean, I love so many different genres and styles and artists.
It's so hard, isn't it? It's
really
so hard to like.
It's really hard.
Do you struggle making playlists?
Yes. My playlists are, you'd probably, if you looked into my playlist, you'd think that I had a personality disorder. Because I go from film music, classical music, all the way up to like hip hop. And then I love a bit of Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. Like there's just there's such a breadth of what I listen to. So yeah, but I think that's part of being a musician. You kind of appreciate different styles and yeah.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to that. And that's the beauty of having a car and being in it alone, right?
Yes.
Then you can just flip from like, so I love a bit of Linkin Park. So I've got a little bit of Linkin Park on. Yeah. And then I'll have some classical music to follow, like a piano piece. And then it'll be like, old school 90s hip hop, like you said, all of that.
That's it, covering all emotions.
That's it. A bit of a Scala,
Bit of a Scala, throw it in.
All right, star sign.
Aquarius.
Yes. Okay. Do you relate to the traits that are associated? Definitely. What are they? I don't know much about Aquarius.
Humanitarian, independent, sort of a free spirit, free thinker, tend to think sideways a little bit, outside the box, very loyal. Some people might think there is a side that's a bit more distant, but that's just sort of me observing and then me being able to trust someone. But when you love hard, I'd say. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Love that. Okay. Are you a dress up or a dress down sort of person?
A bit of both. I like to be presentable at all times. I was brought up
all
at
times.
all times. I mean, I'm not saying I walk around with makeup at home, but I don't like looking a mess. So I'll try and be somewhat put together most days. But then I love, wearing a tracksuit and trainers and having a ponytail and not having to worry about dressing up. It's just, I need it to look put together, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I was brought up in a family with women that always sort of looked presentable, shall we say. So it's a bit ingrained in me.
I like it. I think there was a time when I was younger, I was thinking, when I get to a certain age, I can only wear shirts and trousers because that's what was done by the boomer generation before us, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, we can get away with tracksuit bottoms and still look pretty smart.
Absolutely.
I'm thankful for that.
There are so many good gym brands out there where you look really put together just in, gym wear.
Yeah, like that. Okay. All right. Are you known for being early, late, or on time?
Early. Always early.
Okay.
Drives my kids nuts. Mummy, we're sitting in the car. We don't need to be there for another 10 minutes.
10 minutes is all right.
I mean, not for school. The school run, I'm on time, sometimes a bit late. But if it's for an appointment or something to do with work, I'm always early. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it. Respect that. What's a special place in the world for you?
Oh, this is tricky. Do you know what? I have traveled all over the world. I've been so lucky with my career and seen so many incredible places and been on holiday to gorgeous places. I've been really lucky. But I think it's going to sound really boring me saying this. I'm a bit of a home girl and I love coming home. So I love traveling, experiencing new cultures, cuisines, all of that. It's amazing. But when my parents moved to Bath, when I started university, it's like I left home and then they left the city. They moved to Bath. And it's actually where my grandparents used to live. So I knew it. It was like a second home. And being able to escape London and go there for a weekend, I absolutely loved those times. So I would say Bath is actually a really special city to me. It sounds really boring because, of course, there are some incredible places in the world, but there's just no place like home.
I feel I have to make a comment here because I just went to Bath a couple of weeks ago.
Did you?
And I've been before, but this time I stayed there.
It's so beautiful.
It was gorgeous. And I was so fortunate to actually stay in the Royal Crescent as well.
Which was just,
and I didn't quite understand where I was until I left. And then I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Did that just happen? That was amazing.
Yeah.
So good.
It's so beautiful and full of history. And it's just got a lovely feel to it.
Yeah. And it feels like it's detached from the rest of the world as well in a really beautiful way.
Yeah, it does. It's just lovely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Great choice. What's one thing that you feel a little bit embarrassed about? A guilty pleasure, if you will.
I love to watch trashy TV.
What are we talking about here?
Housewives.
Housewives. Okay. All right.
It's just, it is total trash, but there's just something really addictive about watching other people's lives. And it's also a really good way to shut off. If you've had a really busy day and it's been really intense and you've had really deep chats with people, which is lovely and it serves a purpose, sometimes you just want to go home and just binge watch Housewives.
Okay. All right. I can't say I've ever seen it, but all right. Hey. Is there a book or a movie that you'd recommend, TV show if you like?
A book I would recommend is by Gabor Mate. Is that how you pronounce his name? I'm never quite sure.
I don't know how to pronounce
I
it, but
think
an amazing human.
He is amazing. And he wrote a book, The Body Says No. I think that's what it's called.
I've heard of this.
And it's all about how stored trauma and stress can spark autoimmune diseases and the connection between stress and physical health. And what's so interesting is he presents so many case studies in that book to basically prove his point. And I just found it fascinating because it's something I've always, thought about, and, how our stress levels really do affect our physical health. And then reading his book was just so informative and interesting. And then to see his case studies actually proving this, it's just a great book.
That's awesome. I'm actually writing that down because I'm curious and I love getting book recommendations, but also I'll put a link in the description down below if anyone's watching this on YouTube.
It's really interesting.
Okay. Thank you for that. Is there a particular podcast that you're into in the moment?
This one?
Just what a great podcast, right? What do you like about it?
This one. I just don't have a lot of time to listen to podcasts and things, but the Davina McCall one, Begin Again, I absolutely love it. It's so interesting, and she has such fabulous guests on. Actually, one that I really enjoyed was the Jo Malone one. I had no idea of her backstory and how she got into her business and her sense of smell. It was absolutely fascinating. And the upbringing and childhood that she had and all the stuff she went through. It's an amazing podcast.
Okay.
And Richard E. Grant, love him. His one was amazing.
Didn't even know he had one. There you go.
Yeah.
I remember watching, I think it was Diary of a CEO, Stephen Bartlett, and he interviewed Davina McCall, and he was talking about perimenopause. And I remember it was really late at night. I think it was like 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And I don't know why I started watching a podcast at that time, but I was like, I'll just listen to something. I've had a long day. I was so gripped. I think I was up till silly, like 2 o'clock in the morning, like floods of tears, listening to how big of a deal this is and how it's impacted so many people, and not just that particular subject, but just her life in general, like what she's been through.
She's been through so much.
It's just so courageous. Honestly, I was so inspired.
Actually, when she interviewed Richard E. Grant, there were a lot of parallels with things that they had to cope with growing up. It was interesting. He almost interviewed her a little bit as well as her interviewing him.
Oh, I'll definitely check that one out, that episode.
It's a really good one.
Okay. And just to make a really quick point, Davina McCall, Big Brother, presenter, we get marketed all this kind of stuff. I mean, I guess you could relate to this in terms of your musical career as well. You're seen by the public as this, right? And we forget that you're a human behind all of that. There's stuff going on, and when you start to see that people who do well in life, whatever that measure is, there's usually a story behind that. There's something that had to be overcome.
Yes.
And I guess that's part of why I do what I do as well, because I love hearing from real people about real stories and what drives them. Not so that we can say to everyone, this is how you do it, but more so that, we're all on journeys and we're all trying to figure out what this life is about. And actually, we're not that different from each other.
Yeah, absolutely. We're all human. And I think it's really important to be relatable in whatever industry you're in, and to build the trust between yourself and your patient or your client or whatever you're doing, to not seem as this sort of superhuman that got it all right, because if you eventually did get it right, it's probably because you got a lot wrong before and you've had that learning curve, and experience and age and everything. And I certainly feel like that now. I'm 42, nearly 43.
Hey, life starts at 40, I'm telling you. It starts at 40.
I actually think it does in a way. It's like your second win at life, because often if you've decided to have a family, women are so depleted and exhausted through their 30s, going through all the sleepless nights with all the, teeny tiny, beautiful young children, but demanding. And, you give up your freedom and the days are monotonous and your sleep cycle is completely unpredictable and interrupted. And that has a huge effect on your mental health and how you function every day. So I do think by the time you get to your 40s, you've somewhat recovered. I mean, not completely, but your kids are hopefully sleeping properly by that point. They're in school. You've gained a little bit of your freedom and time back to be yourself again. You start to seek purpose other than being, your children's mum, which of course is the most important job and the most rewarding job. But it's so important not to forget yourself and who you are and the things that you like to do and your interests and hobbies and passions. And often in the 40s, that's the time that you're ready to take all that back on again and sort of re-find yourself, if you like.
Yeah, and you've got all of that wealth of experience to take into that. When you're starting to make decisions, I don't know if you find this, right? But I find now when I make decisions, they're quite boundaried, and I don't have to please everyone. I don't have to be a superhero anymore, even though that probably wasn't healthy, for the 40 years beforehand. But now I'm like, okay, actually, what do I like? Who am I? Can I fall in love with myself? And what does that look like? And life starts to go, I don't know if this is a good way to look at it, but I go, I've got this far. Oh my gosh, I've got so much more to do. Let's get it on. Now, anything that doesn't kind of line up with that is like, look, that sounds great, but no, it's not for me. I'm cracking on this way.
Exactly. Or you can look at it the other way, which is how many summers do you have left? Say you've only got like 40 or 50 summers left. How do you want to spend those? Like, you've got to make really good quality decisions and really make the most of your life, because you just, life is unpredictable. And as you were saying, putting boundaries down, I think, again, comes with experience. And I was a people pleaser as well, very much so, all through my 20s and 30s, and put myself on the back foot. I hated confrontation. I hated upsetting people. I hated saying no. But actually, it didn't get me very far. It didn't make me very happy. I didn't feel very fulfilled in a lot of aspects of my life because of the lack of boundaries. And it's only when you have had enough time on this earth to have the experience to lay down gentle boundaries. They don't have to be harsh and, confrontational. But you've got to think of yourself a little bit. What makes you happy? Because at the end of the day, it's not a dress rehearsal. This is your one shot at fulfilling yourself and putting down boundaries. It takes courage. I was going to talk to you about. That's part of what I think is courage, is having the courage to put down those boundaries. And if the people around you find that difficult, that's nothing to do with you. You have to you have to have the conviction to say, no, I need these boundaries to have a healthier and happier life. And, whoever's okay with them, great. They can come along for the ride. And whoever's not, you just have to not give that energy and just try and focus on yourself.
Yeah, really well put. And I think if you are a people pleaser by nature or have grown up that way, and then you also have the other side of things where you think, I don't want to miss out on something, so you find it hard to let go, it's a deadly combination, because you don't want to say no to things because you feel like you're going to miss out. And then you also don't want to say no to things because you don't want to upset anyone or cause conflict.
Yes.
And that's a difficult thing to work through. And I think, at least from my perspective, like when I heard the word boundary, I don't know, I read a book called Boundaries by Henry Townsend. I think it was an amazing book. I'll put a link in the description as well to that. And I was like, I can't do this stuff. Like, that's going to hurt some people. That's going to upset some people. And I'm supposed to be here for everyone. I'm the guy you go to get stuff done.
Yeah.
And then when you think about it, like saying no I love the way you put it. It doesn't have to be harsh. It can be a gentle boundary, and that's okay. And it's about learning that no is okay. It's all right. It's just, you can't say yes to everything. And
you can't. And I think, especially as you get older and your life is fuller with kids or family or whatever it is, or work, your time is precious. So the free time that you have, you want to invest in the right places with the right people. And I always would say people should be coming into your life to complement, not to complicate. And if it does become too draining or complicated, I think that's when you need to recognize you just need to take a little step back Again, gently. You don't have to be harsh about it.
Yeah. Well, some people you have to be a little bit harsh. I'm just throwing that out there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Depends how thick-skinned they are.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Have you, put you on the spot now, subscribed to the Go Encourage podcast on YouTube yet?
Yes.
Is that a yes, I'll do it afterwards? Or is that
it's on my
yes,
list of to-do things. I've got a long to-do list. Yeah, no, of course.
Fantastic. All right. I'll ask you on the podcast because you can't say no then, right? So this is my strategy to get to 100,000.
No, of course. No, I think you've interviewed some really fascinating people, and it's I love watching all the clips you put up. So I absolutely will.
Thank you. I have to say, one person comes to mind just as we're talking about people pleasing. Her name's Brianne, and we did an episode. I can't remember the title. I'll send you the link afterwards, but it's around people pleasing, and her channel is called Diary of a People Pleaser.
Oh wow!
So she really puts out a lot of content around that. Okay. Highly recommended. Phenomenal human being out in Canada, like such a great human. So
amazing.
Shout out, Brianne.
Oh, I'll check that out.
Check it out. Okay, so let me ask you, we talked a little bit about your musical career, which I'm sure will come up again, but what do you do now? What is it that you are doing with your life right now?
So I'm now a certified naturopathic health coach. After the kids got a little bit older and were at school, I decided that I just really needed to find purpose again and use my brain and get out and sort of be me again. I knew I didn't want to go back to music. I felt like I'd done everything. I'd achieved everything I wanted to achieve in music, and it was amazing, but I just didn't want to revisit in a way. I just wanted to leave it where it was. So I decided health coaching because I began to find an interest in nutrition, and it was through my own fertility struggles that was born. So I'll try and make this as short as possible, but I had a burst appendix, and unfortunately,
I just want to say, Chantal, sorry, you don't have to. It's long form. You're fine. Just
okay.
You don't have to shorten it. You're fine. Just I'm just really interested because I know you shared a little bit about this with me, and it was really inspiring. So please feel free to expand if you would like to.
Again, I think fertility will resonate with a lot of women and men, and so my story was I had a burst appendix in Germany, and I had emergency surgery over there, and it was really complicated and took sort of 2 hours longer than it should have done. It was just a big mess. Anyway, flew home, and because I wanted to start trying for a baby, I wanted to go and get a scan just to make sure everything in that region was good to go and okay. And when I had that scan, the doctor turned around and sort of said, your tubes are flooded with infection. It's residual infection from the appendicitis, and you won't ever be able to have kids naturally, which was a real shock. And then naively, I turned around to him and I said, oh, can you not just drain the tubes? And he was like, no, we can't, because even if we were able to do that, which we can't, the little hairs that push the egg down are flattened. And his analogy was, it's like throwing a glass of water on a velvet carpet. It's the fibers will never be what they used to be. They'll never stand up again. So even if the fluid had been drained, the function had gone. So essentially my roads were broken. And I left that appointment completely heartbroken, devastated, because all I ever wanted was to have kids. But I also left that appointment with this fire in my belly of, I am going to have children. I know I'm going to be a mum. I've just got to find a way. So I did a little bit of research, and I went to see this Chinese doctor in London, and he was amazing. And I just said, these are my goals. I want to be a mummy. I want to have kids. I want to carry my own kids. These are my problems. What can I do to drain these tubes? Because even though I knew the function had gone, I just wanted a clean canvas. And he said, yeah, I can put you on a non-mucus producing diet, and we can drain those tubes and drain your body of mucus it doesn't need, basically. And I was like, how do we do this?
Just from a diet?
From diet. Complete, no supplements, no nothing, just diet. So it was really hardcore. It was no sugar, no dairy, no gluten. It was whole foods, obviously no alcohol. So I followed this extremely strict diet for 6 months, and I went back to have another scan just to see. And when the doctor scanned me, he was like, I don't understand it. You've got no fluid in your tubes. I had completely drained my body of mucus that it didn't need just through diet. And that was the doorway into realizing that food is medicine, and which is why I then had this fascination of understanding how the body works and all the systems and how we feed those systems and what we need. And so that's why I decided to become a naturopathic health coach, because it's all about nutrition and food as medicine. It's not supplement based. But just going back to that, to finish that story, of course, even though I drained the fluid, the function had gone. So I did have IVF, but because my hormones were, thank goodness, totally fine, I fell pregnant with IVF within 2 weeks on my first cycle.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I've got 2 gorgeous girls. So I'm very lucky, but that's how I fell into the nutrition and the wellness space.
Wow.
Yeah. So diet still fascinates me, what we can do to reverse diabetes, Crohn's. We can do so much through diet, gut health, all of this stuff. So it's really powerful, and it's my job to sort of educate my clients on all of these things, because there are so many supplements out there, and there are so many sort of, we're targeted with take this and you'll feel this. And you can spend hundreds and hundreds of pounds on these supplements, and a lot of them are not bioavailable. You end up maybe absorbing 25 to 30% of them. And really what we should be looking at as a baseline is getting those supplements from diet, which is absolutely possible. It doesn't mean that you have to eliminate things. It means you have to add a bit more goodness into your diet, maybe cut down a little bit on certain things like refined sugars that don't really serve a purpose. But it's just education, and not fad yo-yo diets or huge fasting regimes. It's learning how to eat again. So yeah, that's what I do. And because it's a holistic approach, we talk about our stress levels, our sleep, movement, fitness, all of these things, because it's all connected.
It's all connected,
all connected. If you're not sleeping well, your cortisol levels will be high. If your cortisol levels are high, it shuts down your digestion. It's impossible to lose weight. It's like one big cycle, which is why I'm very interested in getting all these categories aligned as much as possible. And there are lots of things that we can do to aid our sleep, get better sleep, reduce our stress levels, balance our plates, balance our blood sugar, just through all the natural approaches. And so that's what I do.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that as well.
No, of course.
And I love that you have lived experience of, you've said it so beautifully. You've told us what happened, but I can't imagine, those sleepless nights, the stress that, was associated with all of that.
Yeah.
I knew from a very young age that I wanted to be a dad when I was older. And so even just that, I don't know how to, let's say, a calling to that, and being told that that's not going to happen, or it's unlikely to happen, all the heartache and the heartbreak behind all of that. Sounds like it would have been excruciating on so many levels.
It was. I'm a really sensitive soul as well, so I feel things very deeply, and which is, it's amazing, but it can also be a bit of a curse when you're that sensitive, because it's impossible not to feel certain things or shut the door on a certain emotion. I find that really difficult. So I do try and process every emotion that I feel. it's not easy. I'm actually studying EFT at the moment, which is all about helping to process emotions, and that's a whole other conversation. But
well, actually, if we have a quick look at EFT, only because I had some EFT a couple of about a year and a half ago, I think it was. And actually, when I started the podcast, I think a few months in, I went on this course. I was seeking some therapy, was going through a really difficult time.
Yeah.
And got some psychotherapy, but that's a different point. And I went to see this person, and it was EFT, and I didn't quite understand what that meant. And there was a part of me that was really like skeptical about it all.
I was too.
I was like, what is this? Like, with a tap? What was this about? No. And she was also a hypnotherapist. So I was like, oh, right. So, Paul McKenna, here we go. That's what I was thinking. But actually, even just after the first session, I was seeing results.
Yeah.
And I think I did I can't remember, maybe 8 weeks or 12 weeks, something like that. Absolutely powerful in terms of helping on a healing journey and bringing clarity to the mind. Yeah.
I mean, training as a practitioner, you have to guide people through EFT, but they also have to guide you. So you do your healing along your training. And for instance, when I was doing my level 2, I had someone guide me through a session, and it took me to a place, of such raw emotion. I was slightly embarrassed because I got really, really emotional. But then I realized that, goodness me, I've been holding on to this for years, and I need to work through it. And it just shows you that one emotion that you might have attached to a memory actually has probably 15 other emotions attached to that. And it's like going through a whole cycle of emotions that you've held on to silently, and you haven't known about it. And then, I was remembering the book that I mentioned earlier about hidden stress. And this is exactly what EFT frees you of that. I mean, it stands for Emotional Freedom Technique. It's literally freeing your emotions that you might have stored and you don't even realize that you've stored. It's really powerful.
Really powerful. I was going to make the same point about linking back to the book. I would imagine, the body keeps a record, they say, don't they?
Absolutely. Everything. I mean, especially things, the more negative emotions like resentment and anger, and that's very much stored in our organs, in our body, and it can definitely have an effect on our physical health. Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. And if we go back to the sort of people-pleasing aspect of things, if as a people pleaser you're conditioned, I'm not even saying other people have conditioned you, even if it's self-conditioned, not to show anger, because anger is seen as a really bad thing, and that's sitting inside of you for all of these years. That's a powerful way of releasing some of those emotions in a way that it's controlled and safe.
Exactly. It's in a safe environment. And the reason why I wanted to add this as another arm to my services is because I deal a lot with stress management. I would say the number one thing that I talk to my clients about is how full their plate is, or how stressed they are, or maybe they've gone through a really emotional time and they're holding on to those sorts of emotions. And it enables me to give them a physical sort of release, if you like. So we don't just talk about, absolutely breathing techniques can calm the nervous system, and they have a place, and it's such a good stress busting technique, along with many other things that we can do to lower our stress levels. But having EFT to offer makes me feel like I can actually make a real difference here in unlocking some stored trauma.
Yeah, for sure. And with the health coaching, going back to what you were saying before in terms of holistic approach to everything, because even when we're talking about release, you see, I'm going to talk about men a little bit because I work with men a lot. You see people who are, I'm going to take up boxing. All right, boxing's where it's at, and I feel better after boxing. Because you are releasing a lot of emotion when you're going and doing that kind of stuff. It could apply to every sport really. But that's only one aspect, right? There's the whole the cognitive side of things as well, because when you're having EFT or psychotherapy or hypnotherapy, you're working with this, but you're also working with the emotion. And then I know you do a lot of stuff in terms of fitness as well. And then when you're working with the body as well, you're actually tackling it in all three layers, which I think is really important.
And you know, the gym is actually a place where I remember having this chat with this guy, got chatting at the gym, and
oh yeah, Chantal.
No,
right,
not like that.
That kind of a story, all right.
No, not at all like that. Oh my God. He's so lovely. And he came up to me and he said, well done, you're here a lot. I see you a lot. And then I said, well, yeah, I see you too. You're always working out. And he said, yeah, but I do that for my mental health, not my physical health. And then it got me thinking, I sort of turned around to him and I said, I'm sure 90% of people here are here for their mental health, not just their physical health. And you're right. You know, exercise has such a strong place in releasing our stored emotions, and it's also a place where you're anonymous. So you don't have to be someone's boyfriend or girlfriend, wife, husband, friend, son, daughter. You're literally just yourself. No one knows anything about your life. And it is just a space just for you. So I think that something like the gym for me has been really healing, and it's aided me into sort of refinding myself again and understanding the benefits of exercise for our mental health as much as our physical health. It's very connected. So it's almost like, well, you just have to pick a sport, or if you like the gym, go to the gym, and that can be your housekeeping, release, cleaning up.
I've had people on the podcast who talk a lot about running. Running's probably the one I dislike the most.
Me too.
But
I'm not a runner at all. I wish I was though.
I don't know. Do you? I don't know.
Yeah, I'm kind of quite envious of people that can go for a 5K run, and I just can't do that.
I can't.
I have no wish to.
I got a friend of mine. He came on the podcast season 3, I want to say. Shout out Matt, and he started running for his mental health.
Yeah,
and he's just an incredible human being, right? Just want to say that because he listens to these. But he went from running like a couch to 5K, whatever it is, the park runs and stuff like that, to now doing ultra marathons in different countries. And I'm just like, how do you do it? And he said, it's all about this.
Yeah.
Because while I'm doing that, I'm processing the emails that I've had this morning. I know I'm strategizing this, that, and the other. And I'm like, wow. Yeah. When I'm running, all I can think about is, when is this going to end?
When is the torture going to end? I know, but it's so freeing for so many people. And I think that's wonderful. I think you've just got to find your thing, haven't you?
Yeah. Yeah, and you said that, didn't you? It's whatever sport, whatever works for you.
Yeah.
It's finding that place to kind of release some of that tension. And, even if you're not doing deep work, your body just feels better.
Absolutely. It gets all
circulation.
The good chemicals being released. Everything is on the up and elevating when you're doing exercise. Yeah. And you don't have to go and do HIIT, because I actually think that can be really stressful on the body. Well, certainly not all the time. I think it has its place, but I would say if you're suffering from a very stressful life, I would probably avoid things like HIIT, because it only stresses the body more.
Interesting.
There are so many different other types of exercise you could do, for a release.
I've done Tough Mudder. That was something.
That's an achievement.
Yeah, I didn't do a lot of the running. I'm gonna be honest. Like, you're supposed to run all the way through, and I walked half of it. I'm gonna be honest.
Me, but walking at the back.
But it's the activities in between, and it's that sense of like community when you're doing it as well. Like, if you're struggling on an obstacle, even if you don't know the person, we're all helping each other out, trying to get over it and stuff like that. In fact, you know what I should do? I should contact, I don't know, in the future sometime, all my guests and say, guys, let's all go and Tough Mudder together. It'd be amazing. So
you could do. See how many turn up.
See how many, like 3 people out of the 50 are like, oh yeah.
I'll be there with refreshing drinks and healthy snacks.
You'll be like, here's the stuff
sidelines.
that you guys need. I was going to ask you, linking to your origins when you're growing up and things like that. Were you always a sporty sort of active kind of person, or has this happened to you? Not happened. Has this been something you introduced later on in life?
I was sporty at school. Yes, I loved sport. I played a lot of tennis. I was always in the teams and stuff. It's just something that I've always really enjoyed. There was definitely in my late 20s and during my early to mid 30s, I really did no exercise. I was just concentrated on being mummy and exhausted. And I have not always eaten healthily at all. I mean, I would say through my student years, I lived off takeaways and I knew nothing about nutrition. I ate a lot of fast food. Yeah. So again, I have learned all of this as I've got older. Sport, I then revisited mid 30s onwards, and I've loved it. And I've realized that I have a real passion for it. So now I'm doing my PT diploma so that I'm able to train people. I've had quite a few requests saying, could you do the training as well as the nutritional and all the other things? And I've had to say I'm not a PT, so I'm not allowed to. But now I'm doing it, so I can say, yes, I can train you.
All that talk about saying no earlier on in the episode, right?
I know.
I want to be able to say yes.
I mean, I suppose where I'm still not people pleaser so much as I just love to help people.
Yeah, I hear that.
So if I can add these little branches within my business with the EFT and the PT and the health coach, it all goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
Then I know that I am able to help more people. And I know that that's what makes me happy. So it's as much for myself as for them. You know, it gives me pleasure to help other people.
I think that's where the magic is in what you do in life, you know?
Yeah.
Sometimes I get asked, hey, it's not always positive. Like sometimes, your podcast it's not all that, you know, you should like really get these sound bites from people. You should trip people up, all this kind of stuff. Right. And I'm like, that's not why I'm doing it. I do it because I get a lot out of the conversation.
Yeah.
And I'm so curious. I love hearing people's stories. And then my thought is, if I love it, maybe if I record it, other people will get something out of it as well. You know,
I believe, I think wherever there's a passion behind a project, it will resonate with people. People will connect with it. I think if you start something and there's not much passion behind it, that's when things usually fail. But I think if there's passion driving a project, it's only a matter of time until success is there. You know, it just is, it's, you know, it takes time. Everything takes time.
And I would just throw into that as well. And even if that perceived success is not there, if you love what you do, then you've already won, right?
Exactly. Success looks different for everybody, doesn't it? Success for me is knowing that I've made a small difference in someone's life.
Yeah.
That's success for me. But again, it's different for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. But I think that is the magic of life. You know, if you can, there's like it's almost cliche now to say it, which is fine because I can't remember the quote, but something like if you love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life, something like that, isn't it?
Yeah, there's truth behind that.
But there's truth.
There's truth. It shouldn't, you know, if you love what you do, it shouldn't feel too much like work.
Yeah. Okay. I wanted to go back to your musical career a little bit. So I'm thinking of this through the lens of courage. So, you know, you went through that a little bit. Britain's Got Talent. You got signed by Simon Cowell. You know, had some amazing colleagues that you were with, traveled everywhere. Lovely. Sounds amazing. I kind of want to zoom in on what did it feel like? Like, did it happen overnight? Was it something that you guys were building up to?
Well, no, it was very unexpected. I mean, we were all classically trained. I was studying at the Royal Academy of Music, following the classical path, assumed I'd end up in an orchestra one day. That was what I was heading towards. I hadn't even thought about doing anything crossover or with an electric viola or anything like that. I was in another band from the age of 19. I think it ran for like 2-3 years. Yeah, I started when I was 19. And that was an electric string quartet as well. So I'd played electric instruments before. So I'd had one at home, and then we were all freelancing, the Escala girls, and we all got booked independently for the McFly tour, the boy band in the UK, to back them, and they requested electric violins. So that's sort of how it happened. We backed them as an electric string quartet, created our name, said we should be a little band and do sort of corporate gigs on the side, earn a bit of money as students. And then we did that. We created our own little album, just doing the corporate circuit. And then we ended up getting booked for the X Factor rap party. I was actually really ill that day. I had really bad flu and I didn't want to do the gig. And the girls were like, oh, come on, you never know who's there. It's going to be fun. It's the X Factor rap party. And I said, okay, fine, I'll do it. So dosed myself up. Did the 45-minute set, like dying. And then at the end, Louis Walsh was there. We didn't even realize. And he said, you girls are great. Have you heard of a show called Britain's Got Talent? And we had, but there had only been one series before us. So it was relatively new. And he said, you'd be great on it. You should go on it. And so he gave us the idea to go on to the show. And he said, look, you might not get anywhere, but at least it raises your profile. You might get more gigs, earn a bit more money. And we just thought, why not? And that's how it happened. It was by chance that he was at the gig. It was by chance that we were booked for the McFly tour and they wanted electric instruments. And so that idea was born. But no, we were all on a very classical journey at all the Royal Colleges. So it was quite unexpected.
Amazing. What was that like then going into, I don't even know how it works. I used to watch the X Factor. Didn't really watch a lot of Britain's Got Talent. Saw a little bit here and there. But sorry, I'm just like...
It's totally fine.
I did slightly embarrass myself the first time we talked though, didn't I? We were talking and I don't know, you had a familiarity about your face and then I found out that you were from Escala and I was like, oh my gosh, you're Chantal from Escala. And I was sitting there on a Zoom call or wherever it was going, I can't believe it.
It's nice that you remembered us.
I remembered you. It
feels so long ago now. Oh my gosh.
Well, I'm quite open, so this is going to make me look like a right buffoon, and I know you already know this. But you guys were you were a wallpaper on my laptop back in the days. So
that's so funny.
That's hilarious. But what I was going to ask you was, so you're behind the scenes, Britain's Got Talent. You're doing whatever you do there. What were your nerves like? What was going on inside?
Do you know what? I don't feel like we were mega nervous because we'd played to so many audiences. I mean, not of that scale, obviously. Our gigs were to much smaller audiences. But I think it was the fact that we had been on stage many times together, even in a smaller realm, but still together. And we were such a tight unit with such tight friendships that it gave us so much comfort on stage. And I think we went on with zero expectation as well. We didn't know how we would be received. Of course, there were some nerves, but I just remember feeling just really happy to be on stage with my three best friends at the time. Like it was just such a dream. And I think I just saw it as an opportunity, and it's going to go one or two ways. Either they're going to say yes or they're going to say no. And if they say no, we'll just carry on doing what we were doing before, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And if they say yes, then great. The unknown, but exciting. So also strength in numbers. I think if I had been a soloist, I would have been bricking it.
Right.
But in a group situation, you give each other comfort.
Yeah. Okay. And was there anything in that whole experience, so not just Britain's Got Talent, but being signed and then traveling everywhere, where you felt there were obstacles to overcome, or were you contained in that group of besties where it was like, throw the world at us, we're fine,
Yeah, we were very tight. I mean, of course, we were spending all day, every day together. And so that can be really intense. And going from one photo shoot to another, to an interview, traveling all around Asia. And it was exhausting. So, of course, there were times where we would have little spats and stuff like you would with your brother and sister. But always over really petty...
Yeah, spill the tea.
But always over really silly stuff like, I wanted to wear that dress, or, oh, I'm going to wear those shoes tonight. You can't wear them. Really silly stuff. Nothing major. But yeah, of course, as always, it's not as glamorous as it looks. You're exhausted. You're living in different time zones all the time. It's really unhealthy in your body when I think about it. Constantly jet lagged, eating on the go. But then you're having these incredible life experiences and performing to audiences that you would never usually have the opportunity to perform in front of, meeting all these amazing people, trying all these incredible foods. There's so many positives to it. But yes, the exhaustion, going from airport to hotel to venue and not experiencing the country, it's not glamorous,
Yeah. Okay. All right. And I wanted to ask you, is there, I don't know if I can ask you, I will ask you, you don't have to answer, but was there anyone who was well known that you met and you were like, oh my gosh, like this person's incredible, or wow, that's not what I thought? And well, actually, maybe let's not do the negative, but like other positive experiences.
I can tell you a funny story.
Yeah, please do.
About getting starstruck.
Okay.
So we went to Simon Cowell's 50th birthday party, and it was filled with celebs, Cheryl Cole, Danny Minogue, all of them, And I went to the loo, and it was unisex. So everyone was in there. And I came out the loo and I went to the wash basin and I looked up, and it was Gordon Ramsay staring in front of my face. And it's so silly, but I got completely starstruck. I was like, oh my God, it's Gordon Ramsay. I absolutely love Gordon Ramsay. He's amazing. He's so funny. And I think I just went, hi. I didn't know what to say. And he went, hi, how are you? And that was it. I think I just went, I'm all right, and just sort of ran off. But that was a funny moment. I mean, we went on tour with Catherine Jenkins, and
he didn't say that's not how you use the soap. You need to do it on the left, like, and start shouting at you like he does.
Didn't start swearing at me. Okay. But no, he was really sweet. Actually, he was really nice. But no, we met a lot of famous people and did some incredible things. We went on tour with Catherine Jenkins. That was fun.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah,
that voice. Ridiculous.
We did the Bond premiere. Oh my goodness, I can't remember the name. The first one that Daniel Craig did. What was it called?
Casino Royale? Was it?
Oh no, the next one. I can't remember the name. That's terrible. But that was great.
That was
we were
good.
on the red carpet in Leicester Square playing in gold sparkly dresses. I remember that.
I feel like we need to know it because you've mentioned it now.
I know. I can't. Isn't that awful? I can't remember the movie name. That's terrible. Quantum of Solace.
Quantum of Solace.
That's
lovely.
it. It was that one.
You got there before Google did. Well done.
It was a million years ago.
Yeah, fair play. Well, thanks for sharing some of that. Yeah, and I like the point that you made in terms, or the honesty, at least in the point that, it's not as glamorous as, amazing experiences, not taken away from that. But if you're saying you're flying into a different country, different time zone, hotel, venue, doing your job, and I guess there's a lot of resilience, going back to the meaning of your name there, where you just keep going regardless of what comes out in front of you.
You do. Yeah, I really struggled with the tiredness, actually, because I do have a fatigue disorder, which wasn't diagnosed at the time, was diagnosed in COVID. Okay. I always knew I had something. But yeah, I struggled majorly with jet lag and trying to acclimatize to different time zones.
What got you through that?
I don't know. I just kept on going. There wasn't an option to not keep going. You have to show up, and you have to show up for your friends as well and not let them down. And that was my drive. So yeah, just keep going.
There's something interesting in that, because when we give ourselves loads of choices, I don't know if you noticed, there's more overthinking that goes on, and there's more likelihood of no being the answer. Oh, I don't feel like it today, or no, it's going to get complicated because I've got to go do this other thing, whatever. Like, there's a whole bunch of reasons. Yeah. But actually, if we just go, no's not an option.
You just get on with it.
You just get on with it. And it takes some courage to have that mindset to go, nope, stiff upper lip, here I go. Yeah. Within reasonable. I don't want you guys to, whoever's listening, to go out and do crazy things, but
No, but it's also a discipline, isn't it? Of showing up for your work, and you've been given this incredible opportunity. The least you can do is show up for it. That was sort of going, even though I was suffering with tiredness, that's sort of the thing burning in the background of, gosh, you're so lucky. You've been given like a golden opportunity here. Yeah. You've got to really, as you say, just get on with it. You can sleep later. You can sleep when you're dead.
Although that was my mantra for like 20 years. And then, I mean,
we need sleep.
No,
I talk about
we
sleep
need some
a lot.
sleep.
We do.
You talked, when we were talking about parenting earlier on, hands-on dad. So, you know, I did all the night shifts for most of their lives.
Wow.
Night shifts, I'd stay up with them, colic, reflux, all the stuff, right? Loved it. I wouldn't change anything. But most people, when the children start to sleep again, they sleep as well. But I found all these extra hours in my day. So I was like, I can run my business. I can do the part-time job.
Yeah.
I can have a podcast. I can do all this stuff. So I squeeze everything in. And it's amazing because I'm literally running on passion. But now I'm getting to a place where I'm like, yeah, maybe I should sleep a little bit more. Maybe that's a good idea because this beard isn't getting any darker.
Sleep is so important to our general health, and it's so connected to so much. My rule of thumb is if you can catnap and you feel tired, take a 20-minute nap. There's nothing wrong with that. It's like a little reset button, isn't it?
Yeah.
Even if you're just sitting down doing nothing for 20 minutes, that's rest. Your body sees that as rest. Or like, I don't know, journaling for 5 minutes. It is important to implement these little pockets of rest throughout your day if you can. Even if you've got a desk job, you're sitting at your desk, just, you know, put your devices away, get out your favorite book, read it for 5 minutes. That's still implementing something to calm your nervous system a little bit, or a breathing exercise. It doesn't have to be a nap. That you can. There's so many different versions of reset. A little guided meditation, whatever works for you, you know. Yeah,
for sure. You said the golden word, and my ears pricked up. And anyone who listens to this regularly will be like, "Oh, there's his opportunity." So
what did I say?
Here we go. You said the word journal.
So
I have a courage journal that I've developed as Going Courage.
Okay.
I don't have one to hand because normally I have like a stack of them here, but they're all out of stock.
Yeah.
But by the magic of technology, maybe one will appear on screen if you're watching this on YouTube. But it's a 31-day program, if you like, of guided prompts is what I'm trying to say. I'm not selling it very well, but
I know
it's a great journal.
I know what you mean. That's great.
And it uses a particular method that seems to work, which includes a sense of reflectiveness, encouragements for the day, an inspiring quote, an affirmation, that kind of thing.
Love that.
I will send you a complimentary copy. I'd love to get your feedback on it as a health coach.
Love that.
So
I love my journals.
I'll pop that in the post.
I'm currently writing it's called a 6-minute journal. Don't spend more than 6 minutes on it a day. Again, it's got prompts. It's really good. It's really good.
Yeah, and I find prompts are really helpful, aren't they? Because you know, if you just look at a blank page, sometimes you're like, and then before you know it, your time's up and you're out.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, exactly. Where do I start? Whereas if it's, you know, got prompts, you can get through it a lot. I think it's better for your, you know, to think chronologically as well. It's quite helpful.
Yeah, I've set mine up so it is chronological. So you do a reflection of yesterday, a really quick reflection. You have an inspiring quote for today. If you want to, you can do a little bit of study around that quote, some like questions around that specific quote. And then there's a space for encouraging yourself and a little bit of a plan for the day ahead. Not like a to-do list, but just a kind of sense of just an emotional check-in.
Love that.
Before you start your day. So yeah, I've had some great feedback actually, better than I thought. So that's volume 1. Volume 2 is going to hopefully come out this year as well. So anyway, I will get you a copy.
Fabulous.
That was a massive sidestep, but we're coming back. So I wanted to ask you what does the word courage mean to you?
Ooh, I love that question. I feel like there's quite a few answers for that. I feel like courage is, to me, showing up when you might rather disappear. Taking the harder option by showing up for something when it would be easier to run away. I think, you know, for instance, trying to start a new business, that's difficult. But if you have the courage to just at least start it and not run away from that idea, you might just get to the other side of fear where all this golden stuff lies. So if you don't have the courage to try, you'll never know, you know, how it could impact your life for the better. So I think that's mainly one. So it's sort of choosing discomfort over regret a little bit. Change can be very uncomfortable, but it's not until you do it that you think, God, if I hadn't have made that decision, I would have really regretted not having the courage to do that.
Yeah. Going back to not turning up for that gig that time, if you were feeling so unwell, would have been easy not to go, right?
It would have been easy to say, girls, I'm just going to stay in bed. You just never know what is around the corner, what life can present you. So I do think in the uncomfortable moments, it is quite important to try and push through that if you can, because sometimes you just get to the really good stuff once you've gone past that threshold of feeling really uncomfortable. And often I think courage is really quiet. It's something that you do privately. It's not something that you shout about or talk about. It's not like you go up to someone and say, I had the courage to do this today. It's actually quite a private moment.
I like that. Yeah, I really like that.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to roar around like a lion and say, right, I'm going to go and do this thing.
You don't have to announce it. And I think for me, what was really challenging actually, when I launched my business and started my Instagram page, it was the courage to put yourself out there to be seen again and not know how you're going to be received. Because I was so worried about, oh God, what are people going to think? Are just millions of people doing the same thing? What am I going to bring that might be a bit different? Or how am I going to resonate with my audience? And it's really scary putting yourself out there again. But I think courage is so important because it can just lead you to so much good stuff.
Yeah, it's almost like the vehicle to get there as well, right? Because you could see the thing that you're looking for, maybe not in, with a great deal of clarity, but you want to know, you want to go in this particular direction. And then it takes something within you to go, even if people laugh at me, even if I fall on my face, even if I have to say, I don't know what I'm doing, help me.
Yeah.
It's a way of like failing forward, isn't it? And stepping into courage and trying to get to the goal. And then you don't even know, you might be aiming one direction, but actually life has a way of saying, hey, you're thinking small. Like I've got something else in store for you.
Yeah. And it's noticing those little signposts along the way, isn't it? Because sometimes you can be so blinkered of, this is what I want to do. This is the road to it. I'm so sure of it. But, you might see these little signposts on the side of the road that you're not noticing. And it's being aware and open enough to receive them. Because as you say, life can take you in such a different direction in a heartbeat. So even though you think you might have got your plan sorted, you just never know.
Yeah, you don't. And what's beautiful about it is this transferable thing, isn't it? I was going to say skill, but it's actually, I don't know how to encompass, it's a virtue, I guess, right? So it's a transferable virtue because you could be in any sphere of life, whether that's, as a parent, maybe you get called back into music, who knows? Maybe as a health coach, you get asked to go and speak to, we can't pronounce his name, but Gabor
Mate.
Thank you. You can do the Mate.
I don't know
Gabor
if
Mate.
I'm pronouncing. I think he's Hungarian, isn't it? I don't know. I think that's how you pronounce it.
But let's say you end up having a conversation with, I don't know, like there could be all sorts of stuff that happens. And it's actually looking at yourself and going, well, I had the courage to do that thing then.
Yeah.
All I have to do is tap into that same bit which lives within me, and I know it's in there, to do the other thing. And that's a really beautiful thing to remember when you're going through life, to say, actually, it's not that I'm not courageous, it's just that I decide to choose courage in this particular situation because I've done it before.
Absolutely. And I think something that can be quite helpful is if you imagine yourself as a little girl or a little boy, that you're sort of doing it for them, that they're the ones that are pushing you. I often think, what would the younger version of myself want me to do? Would she want me to go for this, or would she think it was really silly? And every time it's a push, do it. You just never know,
Love that. And then these things that you find yourself in become full circle moments as well, if you think back to when you were younger. Can I ask you, did you grow up with siblings?
Yeah, I've got an older brother. He's 3.5 years older. Matt. Love Matt. We're really different. We're really, really different, but we get on really well. And he's much more sensible. He's a lawyer.
Okay.
He took the more sensible route in life. I was the creative one, I guess.
I mean, that's quite handy, right? So, hey, Matt, you're coming around for a roast. By the way, I've got this business issue. Can you come and help me out as a lawyer?
Yeah, exactly. No, he's impossible to argue with. So at least he's put his strength, if you want to call it that, he's channeled it into being a lawyer so that he can do it as a living. But yeah, never get into an argument with Uncle Matt. I always say that to my kids. Don't argue with Uncle Matt. He'll argue you under the table.
Okay. Get him on your side in board games and things like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. What would you say has been the most courageous thing, or the thing that's required the most courage from you in the career that you're in now? I know you talked about starting your own business and what that felt like. Is there anything that you're up against at the moment or have been recently where you felt like, oh my gosh, I can't do this, and then you found a way through?
Someone recently asked me if I'd be interested in doing a workshop and talking to a bunch of corporates in the city. And I went, no, don't want to do that. It's too scary. It's much too scary. And it's not like an offer. It was more of a, would you do this? And I suppose the answer is yes, I would. But my goodness, it terrifies me. I've got quite a fear of public speaking or standing up in front of a room of people I don't know, especially who are, working in the corporate world and used to people presenting every single day of the week. That terrifies me. But I also feel like those are the people that need me and others in the wellness space most, because they're the most stressed out, on the cusp of burnout, probably need guidance with nutrition and how they can fit things into their day, and movement and fitness. And so, and there are now these big wellness budgets for these big corporates, because obviously they want their employees to be working in an optimal way. So they don't want them to take lots of sick days off. So I know there's budgets for wellness professionals to go in and do sort of lunches and lunch and learns, I think they're called, workshops. And I do want to do that. But there is a part of me that's like, oh my gosh, I don't know if I can stand up in front of a big group. I want to, and I'm sure I'll push myself to do it. But I'm so comfy with my kind of one-to-ones at the moment. And that then I know I have to push myself out of the comfort zone. And I feel like I will end up doing that. It's just, I'm going to have to dig deep.
You can tell from your smile that you're going to end up doing that. Yeah, for sure.
I feel like there's a space for health coaches in the corporate world. Yes.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I work in health and well-being sort of part-time, and yes, there are budgets, and probably, I'm not saying this about my company, by the way, if anyone's listening, but I know there are companies who put together budgets to help their people, just as you said there, because they know it's going to increase productivity and it's better for the profit margin, whatever the reason might be. But actually, for the people like us who like to help people, fantastic. Like, we'll take it. Like, let's see what we can do to learn. And CPD, supervision, all that kind of stuff helps me as a coach to help the people I'm working with. But when it comes down to, and the reason I'm saying this is I share your fear there. I went on a training workshop a couple of weeks ago, and it was about helping trainers train other people. Help the trainers. I can't remember exactly what their slogan was, but essentially it's people who are public speaking, running workshops and things like that, and helping them to look at best practice, etc. And that's kind of scary for me. So my manager was like, "Yeah, you're totally going on that, Mr. Courage. By the way,
yes,
having a Courage podcast really does." Honestly, all the time, if I'm scared about doing something, everyone's like, "Oh, but aren't you going Courage?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, I've got to do it." Anyway, the point I was going to make there was around. Okay, so we're doing this thing, we're doing this exercise, and I'm like, I'll be smart about this. I'm in a room full of people who do this for a living, right? I don't. I'm the only one in the room who doesn't run workshops and speaks publicly, although I've got some experience in that. It's not something I run towards. So I'm like, oh, I'll be the person who writes down everyone's ideas, in the group. and then someone has to present it, and they were like, no, you're presenting it. I'm like, no, but you guys do this day
Oh,
in, day out.
no.
And they were like, no, that's why you're going to do it. And then someone just said to me, Mr. Courage, right? You got your actions,
Yeah.
you have to line up. So I was like, okay. And then we were group number 1 to go as well. So I was just like, oh my gosh. But going back to what we were saying in terms of sometimes not giving yourself the choice, I just said to myself in my brain, got to do it. Just got to do it. That's it. There's no choice not to do this. You can't run for the door. You got to do it.
No.
And it wasn't that bad.
No, I think that's it. Once you've done it once, it's often doing something the first time. And it's the same when you think about kids. When they try something the first time, they're so fearful because it's the fear of the unknown, which is the worst for humans, to not know what's on the other side of it. But once you've done it once, you've got past that threshold, you're like, okay, no, it's not that bad. And I can build on this and I can make that bit better. And I didn't like what I said here, so I can change it for next time. And so it is about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. I think that's where growth happens. That's how we evolve, and it's how we get better, essentially. And if we always say, no, I'm not doing it because I'm too fearful, you're just going to stay in the same place forever. And although that might feel safe, you're not probably realizing your own potential.
Yeah. And let's say that this little bit of our conversation turns into a reel, a clip or whatever, and it goes out online and people are going, oh yeah, I like that. Yeah. My encouragement is, but actually do it. Like that's where it is, right? It's the action part. It's all very well knowing, okay, if I do this, this is going to happen, or, this is courageous, but actually it's the action part that solidifies it, that makes it a reality, isn't it?
Yeah. And having the right support network around you. Having people that are your cheerleaders, believing in you. You need that. I think humans need connection. We are put on this planet, I believe, to connect. And so by having a sense of community and support around you, the right kind of people around you to elevate you and say, you can do it, you're really good at that, and be your cheerleader, that helps pass that threshold of fear, because you've got people rallying for you, which is so important. And I talk a lot about, who's your support system to clients. Do you have a support system? Do you have a sense of community? So important. Because if you feel isolated, you're less likely to do things, I think.
A follow-up to that is, if someone's listening and they're realizing that they don't have that support system, or they don't surround themselves with people who are lifting them up, let's say, and actually creating more drama or complication or whatever, what would you say to them? What would be a good place for them to start? I
would say, what do they add to your life? Do they add anything to your life that is valuable to you, or are they draining you? And if the answer is, I actually feel really drained when I come away from having spent time with them, I would then suggest, I'm not a counsellor, so I have to be very careful of boundaries. Sure. But okay, let's say a friend was saying this to me. I would say, you probably need to put a gentle boundary up, just for your own happiness, and try and spend time with people who are your cheerleaders in life and who are positive. Obviously, you can't be positive all the time. That would be really boring. You need some color, but it's just the percentage of, negative to positive. Are they impacting your life in a good way, or are they draining you of energy? And then you have to be, I suppose, courageous enough to put down those gentle boundaries and invest your time in people that add to your life and make you feel good. Because ultimately, that's what we should be surrounded by.
And contribute to as well, right? So we're not the drain on the group. Yeah, for sure. I
think a lot of us get stuck in but they're family. Blood is thicker than water. And I'm like, just because they're family doesn't mean that they should have the right to have this negative effect on your life. You can still put gentle boundaries up with family. Doesn't mean that you're eliminating them from your life. You're just taking a step back and just remembering what's important to you and what they add to your life.
Yeah, do you know what's really interesting about family? And I do have an amazing family, so I don't want this to come across like I don't, but there are certain members where I've had to step away just because having them in my life would create so much complication that it has a detrimental impact on myself, my kids, and other people. And you just got to say, well, sometimes in life, you've just got to look back and say, we've had some incredible times with this season.
Yeah.
And actually, in this season I'm in now, I've got to put a firm boundary in place to say, well, actually, this doesn't work on multiple levels. Yeah. So I'm just throwing that out there in case, to your point about blood is thicker than water. We often hear that.
Yeah.
But actually, I think loyalty is thicker than water. I think a sense of encouragement for each other, or ride or die, or whatever you want to frame it. There is a sense of, if you've got people around you who are for you and trying to help you with your goals, or even give you a clip around the ear when you're going off in the wrong direction.
Oh God,
all of that's really valuable.
Yeah, we definitely need people like that to rein us in when we get carried away with something, for sure. They're as important.
They're so important. And I was just going to say, a few times on the podcast where I feel when I get some pushback on certain things, I'll go to a few people that I'll respect and go, hey, what do you think about this? Just so I'm not in my own bubble, in my own echo chamber of like, oh yeah, I know it all. It's like, well, firstly, I don't know it all. I don't know hardly anything. This is why I got you guys on, these amazing guests.
That's not true.
But it's just, trying to get to a place of, just keeping a good sense check on yourself as a person, who's around you, I think is the wider point you're making. Yeah. And actually where you're heading as well. Yeah. And all of that is, again, to use your word, holistic.
Definitely. And when I think about community, in England, it's not ingrained in us like in other countries. If you go to Southern Europe, to Spain, Portugal, Italy, they have such a sense of community, and they live longer because of it. Yeah. Because, it lowers your stress. It calms your nervous system. You live a happier, longer life when you have community around us. And then you look at the people in England, and especially in the older generations, often are really lonely and isolated, or in nursing homes. Whereas in Southern Europe, the elderly often goes and lives with the family. They don't get put in nursing homes. It's like the waiting room to die. It's so depressing. Yeah. And I know that we're very lucky to have nursing homes, because there are some families that could not take on the type of care. And financially and all of that, I totally understand that. But what I'm really getting at is the sense of community literally makes us live longer. It's so important for us as humans. And going through all these chapters of life, you need your people.
Yeah, for sure. So a little bit of a summary there. We're talking about a holistic approach, whether that's physical, mental, emotional.
Yes.
We're talking about community being a really strong part of your well-being as well. And then we're talking about what you put in your body in terms of diet is really important. So I wanted to ask you a couple of questions around diet, if that's okay.
Sure.
And so one of the things that really, I guess, stuck with me from our initial conversation was this whole thing around tap water.
Oh gosh.
Can we talk a little bit? It just I was like,
no,
water.
I do not want to scaremonger anyone. But
I'm a bit worried. Like, am I going to walk away from this conversation not wanting to eat or drink?
No,
anything?
I mean it's a talked about topic. So a lot of people are aware that obviously our tap water has excretions of human waste, and that is people on birth control, HRT, pharmaceutical waste. So even though they are microdoses in our tap water, our endocrine hormonal system works on microdoses. So it can affect us hormonally. It can block our hormones. It can elevate our hormones. It can just make them really unreliable. And so I'm quite into making sure I talk about water filtration. And there are systems that filter hormones. So obviously, because there are all these hormones in tap water, residual hormones, there are things like reverse osmosis water systems. They are a bit of an investment, but then I think investing in our health is really important. Sure. When you think
especially
about what you spend
2 or 3 liters.
Yeah, and if you think about what you spend on food every week, or petrol, or everyday living, it's a one-off payment, and it's done, and you have clean, hormone-free, chlorine-free water forever. All you have to do is change the filter. There are some activated carbon filters that are quite good at filtering hormones as well. But I would say the reverse osmosis ones are the best. There's a company called Water Drop they're great. So that's really, the reason why I was looking into it is because girls these days are starting their periods a lot younger than they did in my day. And we've got to look at why, what's in our diet, what's in our water, what's in our milk. And it is filled with hormones and residual antibiotics and all sorts of things. And there are certain things we can do to avoid that type of exposure. Perimenopause is a massive topic right now. And although, nothing's been proven, research suggests that contributing factors to the early onset of menopause, perimenopause, and early onset of puberty could be to do with things like not being able to filter hormones properly in water, in milk, in meat. I talk about organic produce as much as possible to avoid all these sorts of things. But yeah, we are what we eat. Pesticides is another massive hormone disruptor. And it's crazy to think we're spraying everything to stop animals eating what we then eat. So we're then eating all these toxins. But again, there are ways around it. You can buy organic. You can get certain veg and fruit spray wash. I buy one off Amazon if I can't get organic. And there are ways of reducing these pesticides. I mean, even if it's organic, there are pesticides, there's just less of them. So there's a myth. It's a bit of a myth to say organic produce is pesticide free. It's not. They still use pesticides, but they probably use safer ones and less than what you use on your normal fruit and veg. And so that's really what I try and educate my clients on, is implementing little things that are sustainable to our lives that can benefit our health with food and what we drink and what we eat.
And I like that, because you're not saying, right, throw all of this away.
No.
Here's your new thing.
No.
You're saying, let's try and reduce this as much as you possibly can, and make it achievable.
Exactly.
On a day-to-day.
Make it sustainable, make it achievable. The last thing I want to do is say, right, you've got to cut this, and this out. You can't eat this, you're going to die. Like, there's no point in scaremongering. Like, I'm all for living. I am an 80-20 girl. I love my food. I'll have my treats. I'll have a glass of wine. It's just about balance and how much goodness versus how much not so good stuff are you putting into your body? Can we tip the scales so it's more 70-30 good? It's all about balance and little tips. And filtered water is something that we can all do and will benefit all of us and our children. That's my.
What was the hormone that you were saying that is found in tap water that is bringing on this early stuff?
It's all the hormones that you're given in your HRT and your birth control, so estrogen, progesterone, plastic packaging, BPA mimics estrogen, and that can again slightly disrupt your levels. So try and get BPA free water bottles if you can. Not microwaving plastics. Put it into a glass bowl and microwave it if you want to. Yeah. It's those sorts. It's little tips. It's not, you can't have this, you can't have that, you shouldn't do this, you shouldn't do that. I don't want it to ever come across like that. It's just, what can we do to optimize our health with what we have?
Yeah, I like that. It's optimizing, and then it's also recognizing with what we have, right? Because if we lived in this utopian city where we could source all the perfect stuff, then great. But we, on a day-to-day, most of us are just trying to get through the week.
Exactly. Right? I mean, I live in London. If I wanted a super duper healthy life, I go and live in the middle of a farm. Everything would be organic. But, that's not life. I want to live in London. I love London. I know there's a lot of pollution. What can I do to combat that? Oh, there are air filters. Oh, I can do this. And it's just adding pieces of goodness and things that can optimize your health into your life, whatever that may look like.
Yeah, I like that. A very specific question before we move on.
Okay.
And that is, if someone just had no clue, like you talked about being younger when you were living off takeaways and stuff like that. I can totally relate to that. Having pretty good genes. So, putting weight on was really difficult for me. And, it was a problem back then. But now I look back and go, wow, what a problem to have. That was amazing. Right. So I can get away with eating all sorts. But, thinking about cost of living, like you said, what's available to us, what would be a really simple meal to put together that has the basics of what we want?
Okay.
One that comes to mind. I know there's a few.
I would probably say, look at what your grandparents ate.
Okay.
Rule of thumb, what they ate was mostly whole foods. And that is what we need to be putting into our bodies, because that is nutrient dense, full of all the things that we need, vitamins, minerals, all the gut friendly things. So I would say stick to the perimeter of a supermarket, because all of the processed stuff tends to be in the inner aisles. So get your fresh meat, fish, chicken, get your fresh veggies, make a one pot stew, chuck it all in. And it's so easy. Chop up the meat. I mean, I did this the other day for the kids. I just got some sweet potato. I got some braising steak, tinned tomatoes, lots of veggies, chopped it all up, put it in with herbs and things to make it tasty, put it in a big one pot and stuck it in the oven for 45 minutes. And it was delicious. And it's simple. Again, you could do soups is a good one. Chuck it all into and blend it up. And it's full of all the nutrients that you need. I mean, I will always have protein with every meal. So I couldn't just have soup. I'd need some protein with it. Protein's so important. It keeps us fuller for longer. It stabilizes our blood sugar, helps our muscle growth and overall health. So yeah, I would say meat and vegetables, and then add in some nice powerhouse herbs to it, full of minerals and vitamins. And but I mean, meal planning is something that I can definitely help with. And I often give people like a shopping list. Again, if you don't know where to start in the supermarket, I'll give them some basics. I'll give them some ideas what to do with those basics. Make it super easy, nothing fancy. It has to be tasty, because I'm a massive foodie. I think some people just eat for fuel, but I eat for taste and fuel. So I'm very mindful about trying to suggest meals that are actually really tasty.
Yeah. And your body wants them then, right? You start craving that sort of stuff. If you make something that's healthy that actually tastes really good, you go, oh, I fancy XYZ today, and you go and do it.
Absolutely. Especially when you're working out, your body will signal that it needs protein. So you'll probably crave a piece of chicken or a steak, or, if you're a vegetarian, then you might crave beans and chickpeas and all of that kind of thing. You've got to learn to listen to your body, because it usually tells you what you need and what you want. It's just getting in touch with your intuition again, which can be difficult when we rely so much on gadgets and devices and Oura rings, and we've become so reliant upon gadgets telling us if we've slept, what our blood sugar is, and we've tuned out of our intuition, when actually the answers lie within us. It's about reconnecting to our intuition and really listening to our body again, because it will tell you. If you've had a really rubbish night's sleep, you don't need a ring to tell you that. I mean, some people like the stats, and that's fine, and it doesn't stress them out. But for others, I think it can be a bit of a stressor. Oh my God, I only had 1 hour deep sleep last night. And then it can create more stress. So I'm not against these gadgets, but I'm always mindful about, how is that impacting you? Are you reliant upon it? Has it made you tune out of your own intuition? Yeah. And because that's where I think a problem can lie with them a little bit.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And I think, if we we can get really obsessed with this kind of information. And it's a bit like, we talked about horoscopes earlier on. I talk about attachment styles sometimes on the podcast, love languages, things like that. And if you have a look at it as here's some information, here's some data about myself that I can pull from just to get a feel, fair enough. But if they become religious and become dogma to you, like, okay, I have to sleep this long and I have to have this at this time, it starts to take over. And I think that's what you're kind of getting at there, isn't it?
It's overwhelming. It's totally unnecessary overwhelm. in my opinion. I just don't see the benefits of having endless stats and information when everything that you need to know is inside. And so I always try and say to my kids, your intuition is so important. You know if something's off. You can feel someone's energy. They don't have to explain to you. You should be able to feel that there's something a bit off with that person. So I'm always trying to promote to be in touch with your intuition, because I just think that's where it all began, and that's what we should remember. So intuitive eating is all part of it.
Would you say you're spiritual by nature?
Yes, I think I am spiritual by nature. I am, yes. I feel like there is definitely something else that maybe we don't understand or know about. And I don't believe in coincidences. I believe things happen for a reason. So all those sorts of things, I think I am very spiritual, yes.
And sometimes things happen for a reason because you took a leap of faith and you took some courage to make a decision, right?
You design your own destiny, that's for sure.
Okay. Well, I'd love to have you back to unpack that a little bit, because I am thinking about doing a series just based on spirituality and faith and what people believe and what drives them forward in courage. So if you're up for that, I'd love to have you on board.
That'd be great.
Excellent. All right. I'll send some dates over for that.
Fab.
You talked about meal planning. You talked about quite a fair bit of stuff, to be honest, but like in terms of meal planning and supporting clients and things like that, it's lovely to hear. But if people are listening to this, how do they get in touch with you? How can they work with you?
So I'm very active on my Instagram page, which is bodyspace.healthcoaching. There's lots of tips on there. And in my bio are all the ways to contact me. But my website is bodyspacehealthcoaching.com. And there you will find all my packages. You can book a free 20-minute discovery call with me whenever you like. I can tailor a package to my clients. It doesn't have to be the ones that are pre-designed. I'm pretty flexible on meeting people on prices. I know everything's expensive and I want to help. So if I can, I will be able to find a way to help you. So just get in touch. Let's start the conversation.
So I'll put links in the description below, and I'm sure by the magic of my future self, I'll put some graphics up on the screen so that people can get in touch with you. So you talked about Instagram there, and also your website in case people aren't on social media and stuff and they'd like to reach out through that as well. Fantastic. Okay. And then you would work with people as a health coach. I know you talked a little bit there, but in terms of, is it like long-term packages, short-term packages, that kind of thing? Or is it just assessed based on what the person needs?
So I have pay-as-you-go packages. So people can, sign up to a consultation and a follow-up. And if they want to have another one, they can either do another pay-as-you-go, or they can sign up to a 4-week package, a 6-week package, an 8-week package, a 12-week package. There's so many options because it really depends on what your goals are, how long you want to have coaching for. But again, I'm so happy to tailor a program specifically to that client and their needs and goals.
We talked a little bit before we came on air that if someone contacted you and said, "Oh, I saw your this is the first podcast you've come on, isn't it?"
It is. I only launched my business in September.
That's incredible. Well, thank you for letting me be your first. I really appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
It's so good to have you on. But you were saying that if someone from this podcast comes and gets in touch with you and says something like "Go Encourage," you'll look after them.
Absolutely. If you DM me on Instagram or message me on my website and say "Go Encourage," I will absolutely give, I don't know, let's say 20% off. 20% off all
20%.
Packages. If you have watched this podcast, just DM me "Go Encourage."
Amazing. Oh, that's very generous. Thank you so much.
No, of course. But I run packages all through the year. So it's the best way to keep up is follow me on Instagram and Facebook is the same. And then hopefully you can be signing up to one of my packages soon.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. Look forward to our next episode together.
Yes, thank you for having me.
A couple of takeaways from this is I'm going to send you a copy of the Courage Journal. I'd love to get your feedback on that.
Lovely.
And you're going to press subscribe on YouTube.
Yes, I am. Absolutely.
you get all the stuff that's happening with Go Encourage. Brilliant. Yeah. So wherever you're listening to this episode, our message to you today is to keep moving forward and to go encourage. I shall see you on the next episode. And goodbye from me and Chantal. Bye. Hey, really hope you enjoyed that episode. And I hope there was something there that you can take away and reflect on. If you'd like to continue the conversation, you can do so publicly on YouTube via the comments. Or if you prefer to be more private, you can DM me on Instagram and the handle is @GoEncourage. You can also find links to everything at the website, which is www.goencourage.com. You can find a copy of the Courage Journal, links to TikTok, Instagram, and all the places that you can find Go Encourage online. You can also have a look at the upcoming Go Encourage blog, which is coming soon. So yeah, definitely do check that out. But my encouragement to you is whatever you're doing, whatever you're going through, keep moving forward and to go encourage. I'll see you on the next episode.